Welcome. My name is Stephen Petrasek. I'm a Senior Endpoint Management Engineer with ITS Partners. In this video, I'm going to walk you through installing SQL Server Reporting and Analysis Services, configuring the permissions for the Symantec Application ID during the install of reporting services. We're also going to go over another type of install that I typically run into where reporting and analysis services were installed by a DBA. We're going to configure IT analytics inside the console, and we're going to troubleshoot some common permission issues. We're going to touch on how to add user permissions for IT analytics inside the SMP console. A few facts about my environment here. My SMP server's hostname is SMP71. My Symantec CMDB is hosted on SMP71, and my reporting and analysis server will be on SQL SVR server. So let's go ahead and get started. So right now I'm on my SQL SVR server. I'm gonna install reporting services on this. So I'll go ahead and start right now. Database engine, reporting and analysis services, and I want the management tool set. So go ahead and install it. I'll show you how we set this up. So I'll just call this instance black. I'm going to use the same account for all the SQL Server services. I'm just going to do network service. The account provisioning page is where I find most of the installations of reporting analysis services I run into that have troubles. Some of the issues is when the software is being installed, it's usually installed as a DBA, and the DBA logs in, installs it, and they usually add their current user, which is the DBA admin in this case, for example. But this is where we'd also want to add our Symantec Application ID, which in this case mine is Lyndon NS admin. This is the application ID that's configured inside the SMP console. You'd want to add that in here to ensure that this account has the proper access, because if it doesn't, we'll run into issues setting up ITA inside the SMP console. But for this video, we're going to remove this, and I'll show you going forward how we're going to fix that if it's already set up with the wrong user, for example. So I'm going to do a DBA for both analysis services and reporting services configuration. I'm going to install with native mode, but do not configure. Agree to that. Ready to install. We'll just let this install and come back when it's complete. Alright, our installation has finished here, so I'll go ahead and close this out. Close this out. Now we're going to go ahead and configure reporting services. Start all programs, Microsoft SQL Server, configuration tool, reporting services, configuration manager. We're going to connect to our reporting server and our instance that we created. In the service account, we'll just take the network service account, web service URL. This is our virtual directory. We'll just take the defaults, apply that. Go to the next step, database. Change database. We'll create a new report server database. We'll use integrated security, test connection. Our test connection failed here. I'm going to close this out, and let me input the instance name. Connection good. Port server, English, native mode. Credentials. We'll use Windows credentials. This is where we want to specify our Symantec Application ID. So we're done here. Finish that. Get a report manager URL. Just take the default, apply. Alright, everything's good there. So let's test our URL. Alright, our URL came back. We see our reporting services homepage here. I'll close this out. I will need this this actual URL, so I'm just going to launch it again. Record this. I'll add this to my fax here. Alright, so now let's go over to our SMP server. And let's go to the settings here. All settings. We're actually going to drill down to, from settings, all settings, notification server, IT analytics, configuration. See here, I already have some information filled out. I was hosting analysis and reporting services on the same box, but I'm going to go ahead and change that right now. I'm going to enter for my analysis server name my SQL SVR, my instance name black, and let's try to verify connection. I should get an error message. Yep, the analysis server does not exist. It really doesn't exist because we don't have the proper permissions on it. And I can check that if I open up Management Studio and I attempt to connect to the server type as Analysis Services with my SQL Server name and my instance name. Should allow to connect. If I come over here to Properties, I see that the connected user is not Analysis Server Services Server Admin. So I know I need to make some changes back on my SQL box. So this is one way you can validate if you don't have the proper permissions. Is open Management Studio and attempt to connect to the SQL Analysis Services. So I'll come back on here. I will launch Management Studio on this box. Alright, so I'm going to connect to Analysis Services. I'll just connect to SQL SVR black. I'm still logged in as my DBA_admin account. Come over here, Properties, add my Symantec Application ID account in here, change your location to the entire domain. That's good there. Okay there. Let's come back over to our SMP server. Now if I come back to the console, try to verify the connection again, connection should come through, which it does. Now we want to create a new database. We'll just take the default database name, save settings. Alright, that should be good there. Alright, our configuration completed. There's a few things to note that we're going to need here. We're going to need to get some URLs. Go ahead and get this one. Actually, I don't need all that. I just need that. I'm going to need to get the web service URL. Now let's go ahead and check some general permissions. So let's see if we have access to the report server URL. That's going to be this one. Open up a new tab. Alright, I can see that I don't have the required permissions. So now I need to come back to my SQL Server. Go to the same link. I'm still logged under my DBA account. You see my DBA account doesn't even have the required permissions. So now I need to run this as an admin. I'll come to folder settings. Notice it uses built-in administrators, and if I look at my security or my local groups, see only the administrator and DBA admin. So my Linden NS admin account is not an admin on this. So you can add it as your application ID as an administrator group, but in large enterprises that probably is not ideal because you want to lock down security on the box. So what we could do, I'll just add a new role assignment. I'll add my application ID. Make sure I typed it right. Alright, I'll add content manager. So that should have access. So I'll come back over here and I'll attempt to access the following URL again. Alright, so you have access there. So now I need to obtain this URL. And when I go to configure it, if I input it in here, you should have connection. Alright, verified. Now let's attempt to create a new folder. Save folder settings. Folder settings saved, and we're going to use Windows Integrated Security. So now, if I try to access the same one again, should be fine. Now I have my IT Analytics folder, and I don't have anything in it at the moment, but that's fine. So one of the keys to take away is to ensure that the Symantec application ID is configured in the proper locations when installing and configuring the analysis services and reporting services. This is one of the big issues I run into while on engagements at client sites. So now let's hop back over on our SMP server, and we'll go ahead and start processing some of the additional settings we need to set up. So we're going to come down to the Cubes tab. Installed out. There's no cubes currently installed. Navigate to the available cubes to install cubes. Go to available. Notice I have the full ITSM suite installed, so I may have more available cubes than you have. And this is the Symantec endpoint protection settings, or the endpoint protection cubes. If I had a SEP installed, I'd configure this, but there's no SEP in this environment. So I'll just go ahead and install 1 or 2 cubes. I'll just do computers and patch management. Hit save changes. Sure, we'll install the cubes. Yes. Alright, so our cubes are installed. We'll go ahead and hit close on this. Once you install the cubes, you don't have to reinstall them. Only you have to uninstall and reinstall them if you have some issues when running them. Now I need to process my cubes. I'll just process them right now. So our processing finished on these, so I'll close this out. Now you want to set a reoccurring schedule on these. You can see the following schedules, or you can create a custom schedule if you would like. Next, we're going to go to reports. Alright, so there are currently no reports installed. Come to available reports. So we have the following reports. These reports are based off of the cubes that we installed. I'll just install the inventory dashboard, and let's do the patch management details in that one. Come down here, save changes. Sure you want to install the reports. Why not? So our report install has completed, so I'll close this out. Alright, so let's go to installed. Alright, we see our 3 reports installed here. Come to reports, all reports, and let's just browse some of these. So we have some critical updates, some important updates, and some vulnerable updates. We can click on them and they should expand here, and we can see how we are on them. Go to dashboards. Let's look at our computer inventory dashboard. Let's go to our cubes. Let's look at our computers cube. Let's look at our computer count. So 3 computers. Let's look at our OS type. Put that in here. See, we have one that's running enterprise, one running professional, one running standard, a grand total of 3. Hi, now I'm going to show you some common permissions that we may need to set inside the SMP console for an end user to get an end user access to IT analytics. Right now I'm logged into my SMP server. I have a user account named ITA user for an XP system, and I'll show you that current user's permissions right now. My current ITA user is a member of my level 1 group. Alright, so let me switch over here to my XP box that has my level 1 user. Let's see here. From here you see our user doesn't have access to the IT Analytics reporting folder. You can see that right here. Refresh it. User has no access, so what we need to do is come back to our SMP 7.1 server. We need to come into the security role manager for the role we're on. Drop this down to all items. If I scroll up, I can see my reports. See, I don't have my user's not in here, so if I edit it, item selector should expose the IT Analytics folder. It does. Alright, so I'll just do that and do that. Save that. Now I have my IT Analytics folder. I'll click on that. I'll scroll down here. Make sure I have read permissions checked. I'll go ahead and save changes. I'll hop back on my XP box as ITA user. I'll refresh this page. Let's see, I have my folder here. The cubes, dashboards, reports. If I click on the cubes, I'm probably going to get an error message here. Yep, I get an error message. You may actually receive a different error message similar to this. You need to install the Outlook 2003 web components for Office. The file, you can go right to the link and download it, and this is the actual file here. I'll launch it. I've already had it installed, so I'll just cancel. So if you get this error message here, go to the link, download the Office web components and install it. Assuming you installed that and now you're over here, you get another error message. You actually don't have rights to the cube. You can view the cube, but you don't have rights. I can come over here, back to my SMP 7.1 server. I'll close this window out. I'll go to Settings, Notification Server, IT Analytics, Cubes. And come over here to Security. Scroll down a little. You see now I'm going to add a user to the IT Analytics user role. So I'll just hit Add. Let's find my account. ITA. ITA user. Add that. Come down here. Make a save on that. Come back over here, and if you also receive this message too, you need to install the Analysis Services OL EDB provider. Let's go to the link here. I'll scroll down and show you where that file is. There's 2 versions, or actually 3 versions. You want to download and install the respective version for your file system or for your operating system, whether 64-bit, x86, or if you're running Itanium, download and install that. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. Alright, so now we have access, and we can go ahead and have some fun here. 3 computers. Let's take a look at our OS name, no OS type, filter column 3. Let's see, I only want to see my XP system. See, it works. Now let's go down to the dashboard section. All right, I still don't have access to this one. Let's also go to reports and take a look at some of the reports. I still don't have access to the reports. So let's hop back over on our 7.1 server. Let's come down to the reports section here. Just like in the cube section, we also need to add permissions to the actual reports. there's something I wanted to notice. You can actually manage permissions directly on individual cubes for them all, or just a one by one. Let's go to security. I need to add my role members. Account ITA. Select that. Let's save changes. Alright, let's hop back over to our XP box. Let's just refresh the page. Alright, I can see my reports. And they're actually running. Let's check our dashboard. You can see that. So the two items to take away here is if your users don't see access to the folder, you need to modify the permissions on the said folder for their in the security role manager and give them read rights to view that folder. And also, as you need to assign permissions on the individual reports and the cubes in the following respective section. Well, I hope this video was informative and you're able to get IT Analytics up and running and reporting. Thank you very much, and have a good day.